But before we get into all of that, I want to take a moment to recognize what is occurring in the U.S. today as it advances the most totalitarian platform in its history yet. A pattern we can expect to continue, not just in the U.S., but around the world. The rise of the Trump era marks the rise of a new kind of business-run ethos, if you will, saturated in dominance and competition. This dominance extends beyond agitating other nations in pursuit of trade advantage or geostrategic power, but increasingly its competitive dominance turned inward against the general public, the two ultimate enemies of the state, parallel power and the public itself that does not go along with the interests of the state. As everyone knows, this podcast is dedicated to the importance of structure in society and the need to seek out and address the root denominator of causality, our economic system, a system that is not only environmentally unsustainable, but also serves as a deeply entrenched system of hegemonic power. This system of power has usually been checked to a degree by balancing forces within even a weak democracy. But today, the tide is rapidly shifting. The sociological outcome of the Trump trance, and mind you, Trump is indeed merely a symptom of a much larger pattern, is a culmination that embodies the worst potential path of power in the 21st century. And even if he leaves tomorrow, the momentum of this pattern will persist with a trajectory that will be difficult to stop. From the current deportations of immigrants, ignoring any kind of due process, parading them through vicious prisons in other countries, to rhetoric, it's acceptable to deport American citizens now without due process if they're deemed a problem. We are beginning to see a revival of an old school pattern of state-led public domination. It echoes for sure Nazi Germany and its history, Stalinist Russia as well, and mirrors human rights nightmare locales in a contemporary sense like North Korea or Saudi Arabia, where one who moves against the values, practices, and loyalties of the regime feels the wrath in time. It's bad enough that now the pursuit of environmental homeostasis is virtually being outlawed by this administration in the interest of promoting endless hydrocarbon energy sales and infinite consumption. It's bad enough, as predicted, that basic social safety nets and wealth redistribution measures are being eroded. It's bad enough that hierarchical business values, where power flows from the top and submission from the bottom, are reshaping the entire structure of government, treating it explicitly as a business rather than an institution responsible for public well-being, with, of course, democracy itself considered in agitation. But now there is an added feature to promote fear in the basic population, to get you to know that your very life could be shut down by forces of power on command if you choose to move against the establishment. The critical media is being slowly silenced. Universities forced to be complacent without allowing for protests, for example. While the general public is groomed to embrace the value system of some kind of harsh as possible rhetoric consequence for perceived transgressions for others, people being groomed into wanting this horror that is on the horizon. This is not a subtle issue or one of interpretation. This is a trajectory which the path is paved through a kind of cartoonish, seemingly passive gesturing that everyone just chalks up to being merely tough talk by politicians and nothing more. It's just rhetoric. It's bad enough that there are people in this country that support what's happening within the executive branch, but there's also a group of people that are so docile towards the effects, seeing it as just another phase, constantly making what about comparisons to other prior administrations as if none of this is new. Actually, it is quite new in the elevation of the problem. If you pay attention to the trajectory, there is a very dark cloud that has not even come into position yet. And you may think in a couple of years you can just vote out this broad tendency. Well, think again. All the voting laws are being changed in the same way voting mechanisms are strategically manipulated in other nations to only give the illusion of effect. The United States is the canary in the coal mine of a broader and Western shift now, moving rapidly toward increasingly fascistic degrees of control. I can't predict the future, but I will tell you that everything going on is going to get much more difficult when it comes to any kind of activist initiative. We are witnessing the greatest regression in U.S. history. The next few years are not going to be pretty, mark my words.